Hello, this is Section Bernard. Jackie asked me to do a presentation on the fear of God, and this is for you and all you viewers out there. Looking at our world where money, a home, and transportation with freedom to move about and do as we please, these are what most people value. God, whom we do not see, is of no value to many. Caution though, it seems the time is coming where God will step in to intervene. For there is a lot of injustice and wickedness in the world. Many are breaking God's laws. It is easy to scoff, for we do not see God's hand acting. But history of the great flood and fire in Sodom and Gomorrah are real. Archaeology excavations have proofs. There are prophecies currently of future punishment on those who go against God. These are God's words. In our days, it seems God is non-existent, for we do not see him. But he is slow to act, to give us time to reflect, hoping that we will turn back to him. Let us look at basic signs where we see fear is a natural instinct. When the instinct within us senses danger, it triggers a fight or flight response. Physiologically, the heart and breathing rate increases and the muscles tighten up, ready for fight or flight action. This is an inborn instinct, natural within us, which protects us from being hurt, so to keep us alive. In the same way, the Bible is teaching us to fear God, to keep us alive for the spiritual world. At the start of the human species, God had a covenant with mankind. There was a sacred agreement, a promise between God and humanity. He made man and woman with reason and morality to tell between good and bad, and placed man and women together to multiply with God in the center to protect them, giving them dominion over all the other creatures. Man's purpose was to care for each other and the land, and giving God glory because he is the creator, having given us life and freedom. There was only one solitary prohibition, which was not to eat of the tree of the knowledge with good and evil. And he cautioned for Adam and Eve not to go near to avoid temptation. From the very beginning, God placed this one moral boundary to test humanity, if humanity can submit to God's authority. It may sound leery to you, for you may ask, how can this be? But look, even today, people are pursuing medicinal aid to enhance brain function, literally tampering with the body to either enlighten themselves to live longer, able to think better, or the other way around, to end life prematurely, which we see with the unborn and even with those who cannot cope with life. Adam and Eve were told to leave the knowledge of good and evil alone. Stay away from it. Don't experiment with it. It was not for them to decide if it is good or bad, for God had already decided for them and conveyed to them that it is bad. Adam and Eve knew they should not disobey God, for God had placed an innate fear in them that if they break God's law, there would be consequence, death. The warning was explicit. The temptation was irresistible for Adam and Eve because the deceiver countered God's words, telling them they would not die. Instead, their eyes would be opened to gain wisdom and they would be like gods. They were tricked, deceived, and they abandoned their fear of God. They disobeyed God. And as we know, they were banished from Eden, paradise. We continue to suffer the consequence of their disobedience. Now we have a wounded nature with mortality and tendencies to give in to temptations, having inherited original sin. From the lesson of flirting with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we learn that not all knowledge is beneficial if we sought them outside of God's revealed will. Across scriptures, it becomes clear that reverence for God's moral order cultivates wisdom, which teaches us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Life and true wisdom are only in living with fellowship, in fellowship with God. God placed the tree of good and evil in Eden as a test if mankind could submit to God's authority. The same way, God has placed the 10 Commandments for us to test if we can submit to His authority. This is a parallel comparison, for if we continue to disobey Him, we will be barred from the promise of His heavenly kingdom, and this too is explicit. The instinct to fear God gets us to listen and obey Him, to guard us from the influence of the vile, the evil. But God really wants us to go to Him. When we search God, we see Him as mysterious and we question how He came about. It is mind-boggling because God is so vast, so huge. We can't understand Him. And we ask questions like, did He create everything? Scriptures tells us He made us perfect in His image. Look at yourselves and you can tell you have intelligence, you are creative, you have a heart for love and wisdom. Those are traits, gifts of divinity that suggest that we are made in His image. But why did He not place mankind in His kingdom under His dominion, skipping the test? That's a good question. The thing is, if God is in man's view, man may not feel free to act. And this suffocates true love. Hence, He placed the tree of good and evil in Eden to test Adam and Eve's obedience. They failed because they were inadequate in fully loving and trusting the Creator. The same for us in our current world. We have great autonomy from the Creator. We can use it to live obediently under God's guidance or pursue the seductions of the world. These are tests to see if we care to seek His presence among us and if we are obeying Him. Just look around. Are we so self-engrossed that we are not able to see His majesty, having come down from His kingdom to be among us? He does hide His divinity in that He became man, but His God nature in self-giving love is visible, and He is courting us. He tests to evaluate if we can see past His physical form. He's so, in a way, very paradox to human logic. Homeless, hanging shamefully on a cross. He has no earthly majesty or fame or wealth. He makes Himself lowly in man's judgment. Certainly, He does want us to go to Him, and He does not want us to be afraid of Him. He wants us to discover Him, His true nature, which is love for each one of us, for you, for me. He's like a lover wooing each of us. He wants us to come to Him and to give Him our self-giving love, our true love for Him. In a way, He is cunning or crafty in courting us. But when we are able to catch that hint that He loves us, it would no longer be a hint, but an outflowing of love. With our eyes open, we can see this outflowing, and we would have found the great treasure. God bless.